Every Friday when I was 19, I'd stay at my boyfriend's house after he finished work. His shift ended at midnight, and relying on public transport, I could only make it to his house at 11:45 p.m. It took him around 15 to 20 minutes to return home from work, so I had a good amount of time to wait around. I had always been kind of intimidated by his parents, so I always waited outside his home for him. He lived in a cul-de-sac at the top of a hill, and his house lay at the bottom of a staircase, so they could never see me waiting. I never had a problem being outside on my own. He lived in one of those neighborhoods where nothing happens and you just feel safe. On this particular night, I just felt uneasy. However, making my way down his street to his house, I noticed a man sitting in a car and watching me. I tried to ignore it and continued walking. When I got to his house, I found myself standing by his garage next to the staircase, so I could hide behind the cars in his driveway if I needed to. Still feeling super paranoid, I tried to convince myself that there was no reason to worry. Then the same car started slowly approaching the house. Panic continued to grow inside me, but since nothing happens here, I tried to stay calm. The guy gets out of his car, and I hope he's finally making his way into his home. Nope. The guy comes speeding towards me with the scariest look. I immediately turn away and bolt for the stairs. As I do, he starts blasting a theme from The Exorcist out of his phone, and I literally tumble down the stairs, and I fall into the front door. I still scare myself, wondering what would have happened if the door had been locked. After this, I started meeting my boyfriend at his work and making my way home with him instead. The week after this, we took a taxi back to his place, and the taxi driver tells us about how he came across a man smashing up cars at a garage about 20 minutes away from his friend's house, about an hour after the incident I experienced. His description of the man completely matched my own before I had said anything about him. So I decided to have a get-together with some of my friends. My parents were fine with it. Wasn't exactly a party, just us hanging out. Well, a couple weeks before, I met a friend of a friend on Yahoo Messenger. His name was Clark. Well, Clark was my age and seemed like a pretty cool person, so I invited him to my party. My friend Marie had actually met him, and I knew him, so I thought it was no big deal. Marie wasn't able to come, but Clark showed up, along with 5 or 6 of my friends. Everything was all fine, and we all had fun, ate snacks, played with my parents' pool table, music and talking. Everyone eventually slowly left, but Clark was still there, and my phone rang, and it was another friend that couldn't come, but wanted to say happy birthday. He got up and closed the door, then suddenly got way too handsy with me, and I asked him to stop. He hurt my arm and told me to shut up, and I got scared. I was still on the phone, and I fully believe it didn't go past that because I was still talking to my friend. Clark got mad and went home. I locked the door behind him and felt very scared and shaken up because of the whole thing. For a couple of weeks after that, he kept showing up around my house, trying to get me to go outside with him, but I would tell my mum to tell him I was asleep and stuff. I have only told my mum about this recently, so she didn't know while this happened. He scared me. He was a big guy, about 6 foot, and could easily overpower me without doing much. I was scared to leave my house for a while. I seen him at the grocery store and just stopped what I was doing and ran away. Eventually, he did stop coming around, and I'm very glad because I learnt a few years later he did the same and worse to a few other girls. So yeah, Clark, let's not ever again. This story took place a few years back. I was 14 or 16 and I'm a female, just for some background. Anyway, my mother was at work and it was the last day of the term before the summer holidays. I had the house to myself for a few hours, so I decided to walk my dog around the block. He's a vicious little shit and a nightmare to walk, but hey, it was a nice day and I'm too antisocial to hang out with my other friends. I walked him through the nearby woods and decided to take a different route. This probably wasn't the brightest idea as I got lost very easily, but I was sure that I would find my way home. As we were walking along, I realized that there was a man, all dressed in black, standing a little way from us, staring at us and smiling. He was pretty scary looking, and I was a teenage girl who watched too many horror films, so I automatically assumed the worst. I looked over my shoulder, and lo and behold, he was walking casually behind me, hands in his pockets, his gaze still fixed on me. At this point, I was beginning to freak out, so I sped up considerably till I was practically running. I was beginning to curse myself for deciding that it would be a good idea to walk through a forest with only my dog in a neighborhood known for the gangs, drug dealers, and rapists. Eventually, I managed to lose him, but at that point, I realized I hadn't been paying much attention to where I was going, and I was lost. A horrible feeling of dread washed over me as all of the what-ifs ran through my head. It took me about half an hour of terrified speedwalking through the forest, but I came across a couple out walking, and they gave me instructions to get back. I never told anyone about the man because it really didn't seem like a big deal compared to all of the things that others experience, but I still recall the feeling of helplessness. So I ran in the store with my mum to get a few things. I was age 13 at the time. Oh darn it, will you grab the milk? I forgot to get some. Sure, I said, and I shrugged, so I walked to the back of the store to get it. To make my trip quicker, I cut through some aisles, and through one there's two men around 40-ish talking in a hushed tone, just them two. I passed them, and one said to me, "Damn girl, you look good." Now I wasn't very girlish, but back then and at the time I was just wearing a band tee, baggy jeans, and Converses. And I was only 13 years old, so was taken back by this. So I passed them, trying to ignore what they said. Then they followed me the entire time. I'm at the end of the store, alone and terrified. All the while, they've got this most creepiest and disturbing smiles on their faces. I finally got the stupid milk and hurried back to my mum as fast as I could. I get to her, and I feel relieved because I don't see them anymore, only to find them at the very next register beside the one we're at, still staring me down with the same freakish smile as before. They looked at me like I was a piece of meat. So I'm glad I never ran into those assholes ever again, to say the least. Okay, so me and my husband recently had a new baby girl. We lived in North England, but we decided to move down to London to be closer to his parents and his new job. Anyway, we had moved into a 3-bedroom house about 20 minutes away from his mother's house. And we put the bed upstairs and fixed up a Moses basket for our newborn. We'd eaten dinner and all was well. We were just exhausted from getting next to no sleep. We settled down to go to bed. Our daughter was in her Moses basket, and everything was fine until my boyfriend's phone started to ring with an unknown blocked number. He always has his iPhone for personal matters, but his Samsung Galaxy was ringing, which was primarily for work. He answered it, and the caller put the phone down. He answered it, and the caller put his phone down. We went back to sleep, only to hear creaking downstairs. As it's an old house, we ignored it. We eventually get some rest, but an hour later, I wake up quickly with a deep sense that something's wrong. As I open my eyes, I see a dark figure reaching for my newborn child. It's a thin, dirty woman, and she is nearly touching my beautiful daughter. I shake my boyfriend awake. As soon as he sees this, he shouts, "What the fuck are you doing?" Which scares the hell out of this woman. She hot tails it out of the house. The next morning, we call the police and they come around to inspect the attic and shed outside. It turns out she'd been living in the attic for about a week and a half, as the newspapers stated from that time are in there. We haven't seen her since. We put locks on the doors, windows, and on the attic window. We still have no idea how she got up there. Creepy attic lady, let's not meet. Thanks for watching the third Let's Not Meet video. Remember, if you liked it, hit the like button. Subscribe for more. And always, thanks for watching.